Okay, so welcome everyone. Glad everyone's here. Looks like we have people showing up right and left, so it looks like we're going to have a good turnout. So we're here today to talk about PTC Creo and we're going to do a multi-CAD webinar. So we're going to talk about the ability of multi-CAD to be used within Creo itself. My name is Terry Robbins. I have been using PTC software since it came out in the late 80s. I have worked in the automotive, the consumer products, the defense industry, as well as I did some R&D work for the national labs in Oak Ridge and Huntsville. So I have been on the user end. I have been on the end for creating drawings. I have been on the production end. So I have used the tool in industry as well as in the job functions that I currently have. So I can feel your pain. And one of the things is that we deal with on a daily basis is everybody is trying to collaborate and use these tools as best they can. So there's several different ways that we can collaborate out there. We can do a design collaboration, which is talking about everything. And I'll show you a slide here in just a second that kind of covers that. We can talk about any of those at a later date. Those are not the point of the topic today. We'll be talking about just a couple of those. We'll be breaking those out. So if we go over to the next slide here, and I pull it down, the collaboration that you have from the design standpoint, we're going to talk about Unite Technologies of flexible modeling. That's on the CAD side, as you can see here on my slide. But there's other ways to collaborate to enable you to pull together all types of different designs, all type of different functionalities, all different fields of expertise within the Creo software. And several of those are mentioned here. This is by no means an all-inclusive list, but each one of these will help in collaboration. We have the AR design or augmented reality design share where you can collaborate with individuals out there just by sending them a link and letting them view your augmented reality. We have the Render Studio, which is powered by Keyshot. We have the ability to do animations. Those animations can then be written out into MPEG files, and you can then use various different video softwares out there to edit those and do your animations. We have assembly process planning. We've always had 2D drawing and detailing. We are now, although we've had it for a little while, we're now moving into the 3D annotation with something called model-based definition. And then we have the Creo View. Creo View aids us with the AR functionality in that we can use it to create our files that we will view in the AR that someone can control. They're lightweight, they're easy to create. Creo View is a download. The View Express you can download for free. It's also a thumbnail viewer that you can use to see your CAD data or your Creo data. Those all fall on the design collaboration side, and they're all very functional. Be more than willing to talk about any of those in the future. If you would like to send Rachel or myself an email and said, hey, we'd like to learn more about this. Today, I'm going to talk primarily about Unite Technologies, and then at the very end, a little bit about flexible modeling. Now, what I'm going to show you about flexible modeling, I am just scratching the surface. I could go 2 days on flexible modeling, not just 2 minutes. And so again, it's just a way to whet your appetite and let you know that these things are out there in the event that you're new to the software, or to emphasize that, hey, yeah, we can do this in case it's something that you haven't taken a look at lately. So a couple of testimonials that we have here. This first one is from SRI International, and they've got a biometric system, and they needed to integrate ideas from very, very vast disciplines all into one digital design. And so they use Creo's Unite technology to be able to bring in various different CAD files from numerous sources and be able to accept any changes that any of their suppliers made. And also they could take that data and then repurpose it themselves for use internally. So this is just a testimonial from the SRI International. Here's one from a design manager from Oman Transformers out of India. They took their integrated 2D and 3D data that they had in Autodesk Inventor, and with Unite Technologies, they were able to reuse a lot of their legacy data, and that allowed them to continue on and progress with the innovation of Creo, and to continue on down the line and not have to redo a lot of the things that they have in their legacy portfolio or their archive, so they didn't have to go back in and reinvent the wheel. Some of the questions that you see and that I would come across or that I would think about asking myself as we're going through this would be, you know, what happens if I have a SolidWorks file from a customer and they change it? Well, that's nice. You know, it'd be nice to know what would happen to it. Better yet, how would I know it changed, and can I update it, or can I control what I'm going to update? Can I make changes to this data that I'm getting into the system through Unite Technologies, even if I don't have the native software? Now, I'm specifically going to use SolidWorks primarily as a reference, but you'll see a listing here of most all of the CAD packages that are out there, and then you can use this with it. The non-Creo files that we bring into the system, do they maintain their model tree history, and can you utilize that? If the units are different, this came from a coworker that wasn't familiar with United. If the units are different from system to system, does Creo adjust? And I'll answer that one right now. No, it will not. It will bring the part in. It's whatever size it is. You would have to go in and either scale it, change the dimensions, redo it. The only exception to that is if you have mixed units and you try to go into simulate within Creo, it will tell you have to have complete like units. It will convert them there, but that's past the design stage and getting into the simulation stage. And can you make modifications to your SolidWorks file in Creo and then save it out as a SolidWorks file, or does it become a Creo file? Again, we have some options here, and we're going to talk about those options and what we have out there. So first off, let's try to understand what Unite Technologies is. It basically gives you the ability to open 3D non-PTC files or import those. Now, when I say open or import, hang on, somebody, there we go. Let's make sure everybody is muted. They should mute everyone. The difference between open and import. The difference is open, you just say the file open and it will go and it will pull the system from wherever it is. The import, you actually have to import the file, get it into your local session, and then it will open. That is changing as we are moving forward. Initially, you'll see on the slide here that it just shows you a couple of formats, but when I get out and show you the example, when I do the demo in Creo 7, you'll see that there are quite a few more out there. So it can open or import non-PTC 3D CAD formats. You can update that data to new versions within your design. You can make changes to that data. In order to make changes to that data, the model must be converted. Now, you have the ability to convert that model and add to it, or you have the ability to save that model flat out and bring it in as a completely new PTC part or an assembly. So you can perform a save as function and save it back out as whatever the format is that you're working with. There are some license considerations to do the save as function to get it back to, as an example, a SolidWorks file. You would need the extension within your license pack that would be called Unite Technologies Collaboration. Unite Technologies is included in Creo, but the collaboration portion, which gives you the ability to write back to the non-parametric or non-Creo parametric file type, is an extension within your license, and it's called collaboration. So in order to really utilize Creo Unite and get it to work optimally, the first thing you need to do is you need a profile that says how you're going to read these files when you bring them in, and those are called DIP files. They're basically data import profiles. And you get to those by going into your options, clicking on data exchange, and you have two sections. You have an import and open section, and then you have a file and export section. And notice here, and I'll show you the difference. This says you can do CATIA V5, Creo Elements Direct, SolidWorks, and NX. Those are the only four that you can do. This slide happens to be taken from Creo 3. You will see when I go to the demo here shortly that if I go into the open profiles, this will have populated with much more data. And I will show you where you can determine if the data that you're using is actually data that is conducive to doing this. You can then save these in your config.profile, and then they will be there to be used at a later date. If you click on the open setup profile box, which I will do as part of the demo, you will have various different tabs where you can determine how do you handle your model, how do you handle surfacing and curves and direct modeling, and what are the templates that you wish to use to bring these parts in, basically dictating what your unit system is. So that is something that you would do ahead of time before bringing in any of these files. Once you have the files in, and let me go back for just a second. I want to go back to this slide right here. If you notice, and if you've used Creo for any amount of time, I'm sure you've noticed that this is an assembly icon and this is a part icon. Well, notice here we have created an assembly that has a SolidWorks, an SLD ASM, and its own icon. It's containing two SolidWorks parts, SLD PRTs. It's using an NX part. NX parts are saved as PRTs, but notice this PRT has a different icon than our Creo part. So we have a different icon for that. And then we have our CATIA part, which is our .cat part. Again, it has a slightly different icon. So I have built an assembly model that has multi-CAD files in it. I have a Creo assembly containing a SolidWorks subassembly containing SolidWorks parts. Also within that SolidWorks subassembly, I could have other parts. They could be Creo, they could be NX, they could be Inventor, Solid Edge. I also have here NX and full-blown CATIA files. So they appear in your model tree as they would just if they were all solid Creo parts. So now if I come back down here and I go in and I create the assembly, here is the assembly of a SolidWorks part, and then here's the SolidWorks part we're assembling. Here we're assembling an NX part. And notice it says coincident, oriented. It doesn't care. It's going to use the same functionality. You don't have to know how to assemble the SolidWorks functionality or the NX functionality or the Inventor functionality. It's going to use the Creo functionality. It's just going to give you a different icon in your model tree so that you will know that it's a different file. And then it will also show you the extension of that file to help you out as well. Now this is showing you import data from SolidWorks and Inventor. Again, this is a Creo 4 slide. But if you go to the PTC webpage and you look up this customer support docket 134024, it will give you a big long list, and that list is like 2 pages long of all of the different CAD files that you can now actually just open. It was too many for me to list here. So I just referenced this number, and again, if someone wants this number, if they shoot me an email, I'll be more than happy to shoot it over to them so that we can discuss that. So you're actually building your assembly here using multi-CAD files. Again, we've got SolidWorks parts and assemblies, CATIA parts, and NX parts. And again, it could be Solid Edge or anything else. Now here we're going to talk briefly about making changes to the non-Creo data. You can make changes to that model. When you select it, in essence, when you tell it you want to convert the file, it in essence creates a wrapper around it, and then you can make changes and add to it. It will take that part, create a new Creo part, and your original CATIA, NX, SolidWorks file will remain the same, and it will replace it with the new Creo file. It will have a different icon. So if I come in down here, we notice we have over here our SolidWorks files with our multi-CAD components. Here we have these that have been converted, and the converted has a little arrow on it with a little chain by it. So that tells us it's been converted to a Creo part from some other system. So we've converted those non-Creo CAD components. excuse me, once I'm through and I get done, if I have the collaboration extension, I can do File Save As and say save that as a, in this case, a SolidWorks part, and it will convert every one of those over to SolidWorks parts, and then you can use that SolidWorks part as a SolidWorks file. You can actually open that file within SolidWorks. Incorporating these changes. So let's say you have a SolidWorks file or an NX file, and it comes up and you open the file. If you notice right here in the model tree, we have a little clock. That clock tells me that file is outdated. So this cover, which is this piece right here on top, has been changed and brought back into the system and put wherever I pulled this one from. The system says, hey, that's changed. Notice it doesn't automatically change it because I have the ability to go in and specify what I wish to do with that. Here's the new one that I've gone into and I've said update. So, and the way you do that, once you see that out of date status, or you can actually go into the model tree and right mouse click on it and go to your ATB, your topology bus, and tell it to check status. It will take a look and see if there's anything outdated. So once you check the status and it shows you which ones are outdated, you can update it, which will basically replace the file that you have with the new file. So we've gone from a basically flat disk to one with a chamfer and some recesses on it. We've gone from a lever that's solid to a lever that's got a hollow cutout on it to remove some weight. So you can update it. You can change the link. Changing the link would be like going to a different version of that file that had a new name. So someone did a save as, and now they have two different versions as opposed to a Rev A and a Rev B. They now have Part A and Part B. Or you can make it independent. And if you make it independent, it becomes its own Creo file that's standalone. You're no longer linked back to the file that you originally brought in, and then you can make changes to it as you normally would. Flexible modeling. First off, any questions? Looks like we've got a couple of questions here. Let's take a look and see what they are. Okay, I got a couple of people who just gave me their email addresses and they want their files. So I will send those out to those after this is over with. So those are the two questions that I have so far. No questions there. Let's talk just a little bit about flexible modeling. I've only got one slide here. And flexible modeling basically gives you the ability to change these non-Creo files. Now, I will say flexible modeling will allow you to change a Creo file. Maybe you're not a Creo designer. Maybe you just need to make a little tweak to something. Or maybe you're a direct modeler and you need to make something change real quick. You can use flexible modeling on Creo data, but we'll take a look at how that's used here in just a second. So what I want to do is I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to go into my Creo. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into File. I'm going to come down here to Options, and I'm going to go to my Data Exchange area, which is right here. And here are my Creo options, and these are my settings for data exchange. If you remember before, for open, I had 4. Now I've got a multitude of those that are out there. There's Creo 4. It wasn't there before. It was only V5. There's DXF, DWG. You should have, there's Inventor, Rhino, there's Solid Edge. Notice before that those were imports. You can now do those as opens. So let's just pick one just so you see what it looks like. We're going to pick the, where is it? We'll pick the SolidWorks. There it is. So we pick the SolidWorks. And we come in here and we pick SolidWorks. We just say open. And then we have various different filters or tabs that we can go through. Do you wish to use a template for your model? What are the options for your model? Which ones do you want to use? What do you want to do with your surfaces? How do you wish to handle those? Do you wish to fix any of your continuities? How do you wish to handle curves? How do you wish to handle points? What do you want to do as far as topology is concerned? So here we're going to close gaps between surfaces. We're going to try and repair unsatisfied geometry. You set those, and once you're done, you can save that profile. Now, you could load it immediately if you wanted to, or you could just specify it in your config.pro and then use it as you need to. So that is where that you would configure your input and open profiles. Then you would do the same thing. We'll select SolidWorks, which is the same. Set up your export profiles. What do you wish to export? What version do you wish to export that file as? So you can pick the version of SolidWorks that you wish to reference to. You can specify, do you wish to include datums, hidden entities? Again, you can load or save that profile. If you forget what the defaults are, you can always go back to reset and it will take you back to your defaults. So we'll cancel out of this. So now let's go create an assembly real quick. I've already set my working directory, so I'm going to tell it I want to open, and I want to open the Unite. So here is my Creo part. Notice it's a body, and notice I have all my geometry and everything. I'm going to turn off my datum planes. So now I just want to go in and I tell it I want to assemble. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say I want to see all of the SolidWorks parts. And I want to do the shaft. So there's the shaft. So I'm going to reorient the shaft around a little bit. And again, I'm using standard Creo functionality. Insert those two and make those two coincident. We don't care about the rotation. We're going to say it's fully constrained. There it is. Now I have a SolidWorks part and a Creo part in my Creo assembly. I'll add another one. We'll just tell it to assemble. This time we'll go tell it we want to do NX part file. There's the cover. There's the cover for us to add. I personally like to turn that off. Again, that's just a personal preference. I'm going to align that to that, the outside to the outside, and set the bottom on the top, and come in and make it coincident. And we now have a Creo part, a SolidWorks part, and an NX part, all within the model. So that is the way that you would go about assembling those. I will close this out, and let's see, erase not displayed, and let me set my working directory back to update. Do an open the update assembly. So if you look at my model tree, you see that we have a out of date on the cover and an out of date on the shaft. So if you expand that, you can see what you have underneath it. This was created as an import feature. If I right mouse click over the one that's outdated and I go to advanced topology bus and say check status, it checks the status and it says, okay, here's the part. Here's the path where it was stored when you picked it up, and then someone else has put it down, and it says, okay, when you got it, it was source 1. It is now source 40. The date is 2 months later, and the number of surfaces hasn't changed. So that tells you that it's out of date, what the new geometry is. You can go into topology bus and you can say update, and now it updates the file. You may have to go in and regenerate the file to put it in the correct orientation because we don't know what changed, but that does allow us to see how those files get updated. Erase not up, erase not displayed. Open. Back to this. Now let's say I want to change something. I'm going to go in, and this is the last thing I'll do, is I'm going to open this cover. And then here's the cover that was updated and changed. I'm going to change my display just slightly so you can see it a little better. I turned on the display with edges. So this is a NX part. I do not have NX on this machine. I can go in and say, I want to go into flexible modeling, which is a module within Creo. I can move something, I can offset something, or I can modify analytically. So basically, I want to change the number. So I double click, it says, hey, that's 4. I don't want it to be 4, I want it to be 6. Notice it gets bigger. I hit my check mark, it's done. I double click on it again, and then tell it I want to do a modify analytical, and I can change it back to 4. I am not changing the native file that is in NX. I'm only changing the file that I have here. So I can undo that. I can undo this and get back to where I was. I can highlight this and tell it I want to delete those radii. I can pull those out. I can get rid of them. I can add, let's say I want to go in and I want to add a radius, so I can just go into model. So I can pick this round and I can delete it if I want to. It's gone. I want to put a round in. I just used round. We'll put it on the other one and we'll put a round in. So I've just made a modification to a non-Creo file using Creo functionality. And this, again, like I said, I could go 2 days on flexible modeling and all the different things you can do, but that enables you to bring in multiple CAD files from most of the formats that are out there, apply them to whatever your Creo design is, and use them for creating a drawing or creating an assembly, and then make slight changes or massive changes to those, depending on what those changes are, to those files without having the native software in-house. Any other questions that I could possibly answer? I don't see any more. I've got so many people on here, I can't see everyone, but let me scroll down. I don't see any questions in the chat bar. Questions from anyone? Okay, let's see. I got an email address here that says it's wrong, and then I got an email address here that says it's right. Okay, I see the difference. Got it. Other questions? I know we're about 4 minutes over, but we started about 5 minutes late so that everyone could get in. So I'm trying to hold to that strict 30 minutes, so I've got less than a minute left. Any other comments? Okay, I will go to the last slide in the PowerPoint here. So if you want to write this down, my name, that's my phone number. Feel free to copy that down. And then my email address is there, trobbins@boston-engineering.com. That is a dash and not an underscore. And yes, it does need to be there. So you feel free to copy me on an email, shoot me an email. You can also reply back to